The following program is brought to you by the University of Alabama.
When Daniel Wallace and I last talked, the best-selling novel Big Fish had already become a hit movie. Now Wallace has seen Big Fish as a musical on Broadway, and the show is touring the country. Always busy, Wallace has recently written and illustrated a fanciful and subversive children's book, The Cat's Pajamas, while taking up the challenge of evaluating North Carolina's many barbecue restaurants. And there are a lot of them. I spoke with Daniel Wallace in the studios of Alabama Public Television in Montgomery, Alabama. Daniel, it's good to see you again.
It's great to be here. I love it because it is like it is a time capsule because you do stay the same, and I get to just chart my aging process through these videos. So it's
you can show me your grandchildren.
Well, I'm going to bury them with me. Yeah.
Last time we spoke, you had just published Kings and Queens of Rome.
Yeah.
And we're on a tour, and the last thing you and I spoke about, besides that novel, was that Big Fish was about to appear on Broadway.
Yes.
And it did.
Oh yeah, it did in
What
a
happened?
kind of a fleeting way.
What
yeah.
happened?
But it was there.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it. Broadway is completely new to me. I have no idea really how it works, but from what I could gather, it just couldn't generate the millions of dollars it needed to keep afloat. It's a very expensive production. They really overdid it. And as far as, I don't want to say overdid it, that sounds negative, but there were a lot of people in it, there were a lot of special effects, and it cost a lot to keep it running. And so I think that was part of it. I think it's also, spoiler alert, it's Big Fish. At the end, the father dies, and if you go to Broadway, I don't know that you're aching to go see necessarily a story where the guy dies in the end. It's kind of heartbreaking. So and the address wasn't as good as it could have been. I don't know. It was great that it actually got there. And now there are probably 60 productions, between 60 and 100 productions going on right now across the country. And professional troupes and high schools. It's going to be in Gadsden.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Community theater's going to do Big Fish.
Yeah.
Road companies.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Those things don't die. They just move around.
They just move around. Yeah.
Right.
Like a virus.
Well, if you want to write a Broadway play and make it fly, you need about 4 characters in contemporary dress in a living room.
That'll do it?
And that is what does it.
Yeah.
Because very, very low overhead.
Yeah.
Musical comedies, on the other hand.
Yeah, very tough.
Very hard.
Tough.
Right.
Larry David has one on Broadway now. I don't know how that's doing, but.
Right. Or if you really want to keep all the money, you just do a monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. I wake up every morning and I say, keep all the money.
You get up there and pretend to be Helen Keller for 90 minutes. And you get to keep all the money.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that show is on the road. Everybody knows Big Fish. 1 million people read the book and 2 million people saw the movie. Now another gazillion.
Yeah.
But you've moved in a completely new direction just now. Mm-hmm. You've published a children's book, which you've illustrated yourself with. When I described them, I think of them as pen and ink drawings that are then filled in with watercolor.
I think
is that right?
That's exactly what they are. Yeah.
They're filled in. They're not.
No, they're by hand.
Yeah, by you.
By me. Yeah,
Yes,
I do them
right.
all. With, and the thing that's attractive about those illustrations is that I'm 56, but my style is that of a very talented 7-year-old, and very few people at my age can maintain that innocence and that honesty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Picasso had that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It made him rich.
And I just realized, and I'm glad you compared me to Picasso, because not many people have. But I just realized that my first book was published when I was 39, and Toni Morrison published her book at 39, and I'm thinking, coincidence?
I
don't know.
guess not.
I don't know. Just saying it's interesting.
Well, yeah. There's an essay here that I can write, something like Daniel Wallace, a combination of Toni Morrison and Pablo Picasso.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that happening.
Right.
Yeah.
It's The Cat's Pajamas.
Yes.
It's a children's book. Who's your intended audience? Is it to be read, or are the children to be read to?
It is, to me, it's prenatal to postmortem. I think it covers the gamut because there's something in there for everybody. It can be read to a child, and then once the child starts to learn to read, she can read it. Those audiences, the first and second grade audiences, so much better than adult audiences. I love them. One girl came up to me after I did a reading at her school, and she said, "You wrote the words and did the pictures? You're talented." And you don't have people coming up to you in adult readings and saying, "You're talented."
And that girl didn't know Picasso or Toni Morrison.
Exactly.
It was genuine emotion.
Exactly, very direct.
You set it is mythic, as a lot of your stuff is. I mean, it's always out there at the very edge of fairy tale or myth, something highly semi-real. In this case, it's a time in the far distant past when cats had a civilization and got up in the morning and went to work and wore suits.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly like our civilization, only difference, they're cats.
Right. And they are, a lot of them, very conformist.
Exactly.
Except for your hero.
Louis Fellini.
Louis Fellini, yeah. All right, the audience will either get the Fellini double pun or they won't. But
they'll probably wake up in the middle of the night and go, "I get it."
Get it. Right. But you also have a lot of stories about canines, so that'll help them along.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, I'm not doing cats anymore.
No, the real money's in dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly, and since this is an adult audience probably going to be watching this, although I'm sure you have a lot of first and second graders also that are viewing the show. But
only if they're sick.
Yeah.
They're sick, stay home.
And they don't have cable, watch Bookwatch. What was I going to say? I don't remember. Go ahead.
Well, Louis, your hero.
Yes.
He goes to school and everybody's dressed the same. You're on a college campus. Is this what you see every day?
You do see a lot of conformity. Yeah, and it makes sense.
Why?
It's hard, to be. It's hard to be different. I think there are those who are, obviously, but I think that conforming is probably the easiest path. And I get it. Yeah.
So Louis one day decides he's not going to dress in the way young cats dress, which looks like jeans, shorts, and a T-shirt and sneakers.
Yeah, and it's not a bad look. It's just
no. He shows up one day in what?
He has a cape on, a beret, a really colorful shirt, and he has shoes with stars on the end of them.
You'd think that would do the job.
You would think. But
so what happens?
Everybody starts to dress like him. So it's the sameness. A difference becomes the sameness, and his struggle is to find that thing that is truly him and that is nobody else, and that's his goal in this very, very short illustrated novel.
Well, he does. He's successful. Then when everybody else dresses up in the cape and the beret, he shows up in a pair of purple boots and a green plastic jacket, something like that.
Yeah, and the question is, where does he get all this stuff?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, that's the nice thing.
It
about
only
fiction.
happens in a book.
Yes, you can have him do anything you want. It's kind of like The Simpsons. There's no problem with what happens in The Simpsons.
And in the real world, it just couldn't happen.
Right.
But we try to.
And then everybody imitates that.
Yeah.
And he says, "You're all a bunch of
copycats," and that's where the phrase came from.
It is. I thought it was older, but now I know better.
No, it's older than old. No, I didn't do it. In this earlier civilization of catness, that's when it happened.
Finally, he shows up in pajamas, thus the title, The Cat's Pajamas. Then all the cats wear pajamas all the time because they're so comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, if we could, we would. But what happens with the cats, and again, spoiler alert, it means the end of cat civilization, because they don't go to work anymore, they don't go to school, they just lie around and play in the sun and just become as the cats that we know today. Cat civilization crumbles, which allows our civilization to rise. If that had not happened, who knows if we would be here talking.
This will be on all the reading lists for the college boards and what have you.
No doubt.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my goal. Yeah. Actually, to me, there's nothing more depressing in a way to be assigned reading, which some of my books are, in high schools. I just imagine kids just hate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reading things that you're told to read is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard even now. Somebody brings me a book and says, "Oh, you must read this. Here, I'm loaning it to you."
Yeah.
That book lies around for ages before I finally get it done. And I read a lot, but that one becomes radioactive.
Free will. Mm-hmm.
Yes, right. The publishing of this book, I mean, you've had, I guess now, this is your 6th book, so to speak, I think. But you crowdfunded the book.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that?
Well,
You didn't need to do it.
Well, that's not actually true. You would like to think that you publish 5 novels that you can just do anything that you want to, but it's really not the case. And but this book particularly is an odd book. I'd had it in my files for a while and incomplete, but the son of a friend of mine had this startup called Ink Shares, and it was crowdfunding simply for publishing, like Kickstarter, but for books. And he asked me for it, and I had it, and so we did it. And it's been the most pleasurable publishing experience that I've had in a really long time. Every time I sell a book, even one book, I get an email saying, "You sold a book." And it's great.
That's a lot of emails.
That's a lot of emails, but it's great. It's it's a pat on the back, a couple of times a day.
Well, it's nice to have a relationship with your publisher where you get a notice for every copy.
Yeah, and there's no advance, and so every book that you sell, you get a piece of it, and then they tell you how many books have been sold, what your cut of each book is, and how much you've made, and then they just wire it to your account.
Really?
Yeah, it's lovely. I
love
it.
I was amused. I recently read a magazine piece that you did about appearing in the movie Big Fish for 14 seconds.
I think it was probably 11, but yeah.
And you get a residual for that. Your last check was $7 and
before taxes, it was $7.
$7.02 or something.
Yeah, it's objectionable in a way. It's like getting royalty statements from my publisher for my books haven't earned out. They send you letters and say how much you still owe them.
How much,
and please, no, I don't need that.
Well, since the Kings and Queens of Rome and now Cat's Pajamas, one of the things that you've been doing a lot of is magazine work.
Yeah.
Articles. The one that I think is the oddest is killing a chicken.
Yes. In what sense do you mean odd?
Well, it's about killing. It's about death. It's about mortality. But first of all, you had rarely killed anything, and you got a yen to kill a chicken?
I would not call it a yen. That sounds psychotic, but is that where you're going with this?
No.
We've known each other for a long time.
Why did you
This is the final judgment.
Why did you want to kill a chicken at all? And
I had believed for a long time that I should be able to kill the thing I eat. It comes to me completely prepared, and there's this you don't understand, or I didn't really grasp the sense of life behind it. And so if I could eat it, I thought I should be able to kill it and see what that was like, and see the process from the beginning to the end. Yeah.
So you happened to be at a farm. There was a rooster who needed killing. You killed the rooster.
And there was a killer available.
there was a man there who wanted to kill a chicken.
Yeah,
and
it was really hard in the group I run with to find somebody with a chicken that needed killing, and really I was looking for him for a couple of years, and just as luck would have it, was in Vermont, and I did it.
All right. Now, in your article, which is amusing and serious at the same time, it was traumatic for you.
Well, I mean, it was a thing.
Yeah, didn't change
I've
your
gotten
life.
over it. No PTSD.
But you did not become a vegetarian. It didn't put you off.
Oh no.
No.
Oh, not at all.
No.
You know, it actually made me feel better about doing it, about eating chicken. You know, I can't. Just being part of that whole cycle was, I think, educational and just very interesting thing, and I think everybody should do it.
Well, a lot of people
do it.
do
you know,
it.
and
have done it.
A lot of people, you know, who grow up killing chickens have actually made fun of me. You know, I'm making this big deal out of killing one chicken.
I used to kill. I was partly raised on a dairy farm, and I was often sent out on Sunday morning to kill the chicken.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to waste time here making fun of you.
Well,
We're
come
gonna-
on.
we're
Why
gonna move
change?
right- we're
Why
gonna
change
move right
now?
along.
Okay.
Moving from chicken meat to barbecue.
Yeah.
I've never known anyone to write more articles about barbecue than you have done. You got a job with Our State,
Yeah.
the magazine. It comes out of Raleigh, I guess.
Yeah. It's the North Carolina magazine. It's
Yeah.
all about things that happen in North
And
Carolina.
they sent you all over the place to write about barbecue?
Yeah.
How
yeah.
many? I read a dozen articles
Yeah,
about
there are about a
barbecue.
dozen. I went to about a dozen places. I was the barbecue critic for that magazine, and was hired specifically because, and this is true, because I didn't know anything about barbecue and really didn't like barbecue. And so they wanted a fresh take on it, because there's not a lot that you can do with barbecue. You can talk about how, you know, the kind of sauce they have on it, you know, whether they use hickory or oak, but after that, things get kind of stale. And so they wanted a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
And if you read the articles, I talk very little about barbecue.
Yeah. Mostly about the venues,
The
really.
venue,
it's the
yeah,
places
and those are the
that-
interesting
and
parts
they're
of
odd
it.
and colorful.
And the families that run it, and a lot
Right.
of them are family ventures, and it's interesting.
Right. I cannot tell you how many times in Tuscaloosa I have been at a table where people were talking about varieties of sauce from Jim and Nick's or
Yeah.
the Pottery Grill or one of the others. And you know, you would think that we were talking about Monet or something, and it's nothing but barbecue sauce. It's just
Well,
enough to make you
it's a
crazy.
dichotomy, because people are very, very attached to their particular sauce, which is something I never really realized.
No, yes.
Yeah.
I think they should get over it, but that's
Well,
That's-
it's
it's
like
okay.
football teams. Yeah.
yeah, right. If it's not Dreamland, it's got to be. You know, it's just fine. It's a fetish, and it should
And
be
let's not
regarded.
judge. Let's not judge.
no,
We'll
no.
let people have their pleasures.
I don't see any way to stop them.
No.
But there's no way to stop me either.
No. Yeah.
So-
You're the unstoppable. That's how I think of you, the
I'm gonna
unstoppable
judge them
Don
if
Noble.
I want to.
Yeah.
They're I mean, it's one after the next. And some of them are kind of interesting. That place in Saxapahaw, which apparently is a kind of upscale restaurant in an old general store, that was interesting. And several places around. There's a secret bar in
Chapel Hill.
it,
Picadillo. It's behind a car wash.
over in Pittsburgh, or
No, it's actually in Chapel Hill.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess if you write an article about it and publish it in a North Carolina magazine, it's not secret anymore.
No,
Yeah.
I'd love articles that begin the best kept secret.
No,
You know,
I know. Well,
that's over.
Yeah, well, there's no sign on the door. It's just a beat-up metal door. Yeah, and it's a beautiful bar. There's no television in it, which is rare these days.
You are, in several of your articles, you have a phrase, you're a famous indoorsman. That is to say, you know.
I'm an indoor writer. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have a piece in Garden and Gun on a man in the Smokies who is a tracker and finds lost children.
Yes.
McCormick, what's his name?
McCarter, Dwight
McCarter.
McCarter.
Right.
Yeah, he's amazing.
It seems that seems like out of your territory a little, but it's a damn interesting article. Why did you?
He is interesting.
How did you get on that?
Well, the thing I love about these magazine articles is I get to do things that I would never do on my own. And going to the Smokies and hiking with this tracker of children is one of them. I never would have had an opportunity to talk with him and get his story, and they're fascinating stories. So again, I think that when you're doing some immersive nonfiction, that having a fresh perspective on it can be, give you a different angle. And so, and that's what I liked about it. Yeah, I pretended to like the outdoors in that article. I talked about plants with love and not disdain.
Well, you have another article about growing flowers, in which you talk about your hibiscus and a couple of other plants.
That's traumatic, yeah.
Yeah.
The hibiscus story is very traumatic.
Well, there's your spoiler alert. You planted them and they died.
No, what happened was they grew so big that it overshadowed all the other plants in the garden, and we had to move it, and it, of course, didn't survive the move.
Well, I mean, what you say is perfectly right. But the first ones you planted, you put in too much fertilizer and you killed them.
I killed it.
Then you went back to
Yeah.
And what is it that you said something like you killed them with love?
Yeah.
And then you went back and
If a
planted
little
them
bit
right.
of fertilizer is good, why not a lot of fertilizer?
Now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know why.
Yeah.
Are you a traveler? Do you enjoy traveling? Domestic travel, foreign travel, air travel,
Well,
what have you?
I traveled from North Carolina to here, and it was painless. I mean, I don't travel a ton. I mean, it's hard. I love writing because it's indoors. The getting from my house to my office, which is in my house, no traffic. I love that.
But do you go to Europe? Do you travel around the world?
I'm going to Europe actually in May. I'm going to Italy.
And?
Yeah.
Why? And why? I mean, in piece after piece, you describe yourself as sort of like you drove up to the edge of the Grand Canyon. I mean, that may have been, of course, fanciful.
No, that's absolutely true.
And what did you do?
I stayed in the car.
Why?
Because I was having an argument with my girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to give her the pleasure of me looking at the Grand Canyon, which, like, I don't want to see this.
So
you go ahead.
You drove from North Carolina to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Got within 50 yards.
Yeah, I stayed in the car.
Yeah,
I showed her. Yeah.
That's very stubborn. Have you been to Europe?
I went when I was very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and backpacked a little bit.
Because you refer from time to time to Paris, and Paris is almost always in a kind of quote. So
Yeah.
There's this stuff that goes on in Paris.
It's one of those things that you can't mention without seeming as though you're name dropping, I think.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I had an interview with Don Noble. I would never mention this to anybody because it would seem like I was bragging.
Wouldn't do you a bit of good.
Yeah.
You're doing the right thing there.
Really.
Right. Southern Dirt. I read your piece, in which you talk about how you might possibly keep a little dirt from every place you ever lived.
Yeah.
Did you know Eugene Walter, the Mobile writer?
No, I did not.
Eugene did that. And when he left the United States after serving in World War II, he took a shoebox full of Alabama dirt, and he took it to Greenwich Village, where he lived for a while. And then he took it to Paris, where he lived for a while. And then he took it to Rome, where he lived for a very long time. And wherever Eugene lived, he kept a box of Alabama dirt, South Alabama dirt, under his bed.
Wow.
And I read your piece, and you said, how many places have you lived?
A lot.
Right.
I have lost
a dozen
count.
anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, at least. That's a lot of dirt.
It would be.
It would be a lot of dirt.
A lot of dirt. This has to be a Southern trait. I can't imagine people from Connecticut keeping boxes full of dirt.
Yeah. Do they even have dirt? It's soil up there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Or in Faulkner.
Yeah.
You refer to Faulkner as the only writer important enough to use the word soil.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I could never get away
It was
with
a
it.
postage stamp of native
soil.
Soil. Yeah. I think when I was studying Southern literature as a tot, lecturers would just berate me with the idea that the sense of place was the crucial, the red-hot center of Southern literature. It was not necessarily character or plot. It was place. And the dirt thing sort of suggests that, but more to the point, there's that little company in Hillsborough that you're doing the illustrations for, 27 views of Hillsborough?
Of Hillsborough, of Winston-Salem, of just all these different cities across.
What happens in those little books?
There are different perspectives from 27 different writers on the town.
On one place?
On one place, yeah.
Well, Hillsborough has 27 writers.
Oh, at least.
Oh,
yeah. But
yeah.
it's interesting. You can find 27 writers in almost anywhere you go, at least in North Carolina.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. I bet you could find yeah, if you really looked, they're there.
You could find them in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
It would thin out some.
In other places,
After that.
other nameless places, yeah.
And I don't know if a book like Four Views of Jasper is
yeah, a couple of
gonna
views,
take you
yeah,
down the road.
Yeah.
2 quick questions. We only really actually have 1 minute left.
What?
Yes, it's true.
It's impossible.
How the time flies when you're having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for a book of short stories from you.
I am too.
Well, you've got the stories. Why don't you crowdfund them with your friend and put them out?
I could. I might
You
do
could.
that. Yeah,
You
I might
could.
do that. The problem with stories, at least my stories, is that my books don't sell that well, and you have to really cut it in half with short stories, and so
Yeah.
the publisher's
get
not
it.
aching for them. But I would love that because I love stories.
I mean, you've set yourself a precedent here.
Mm-hmm. I'll do it.
I'll send you the $25 or whatever it is.
You'll support my.
I will support it.
Okay.
I'll support the book. I'll review the book. I'll even praise the book. But
Yeah.
we can't have this business where you keep all the money.
No.
No.
You want a piece? All right, we'll talk.
What are you working on now?
Working.
What's next?
I'm working on a novel and hoping that something good comes from it.
And that's the end of that, right?
Yeah, I think we should leave it there.
Okay. Well, we will. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you.
As usual. It's a
yeah,
great
I loved
pleasure.
it. I loved it.